This to me is the most interesting and substantive MrBeast related story we've gotten so far. To me, this is the biggest drama I've heard of with MrBeast that actually is like good. The other day I saw like the Lunchly thing and I was like, who gives a f about Lunchly? Okay. This is something bad that he actually, if true, is responsible for. And I'd like to talk about it. You guys might remember a video I did called the BeastGames disaster. And in that video, I talked about MrBeast, specifically his Amazon TV show, and how things weren't going that well for this show. There were a lot of claims being made here. Do you ever get tired of covering other people's dirty laundry? Not really. A lot of it's more interesting than just simple dirty laundry. A lot of it asks broader questions about society, I would like to think. Broader questions about like ethics in companies and stuff like that, especially with the MrBeast thing. So not really. I made this video called the BeastGames disaster. And in this video, I talked about how MrBeast's Amazon TV show deal was not going that well because of a lot of allegations being made by many contestants. There were a lot of claims being made, and most of them were covered in this New York Times article. Now, we're going to go through a bit of this article here, and then we're going to get to some of the lawsuit. I won't read the whole thing today on stream, but I do know the footnotes of it, so I can kind of summarize it for you guys. But it is a pretty interesting lawsuit, and it seems to be directly linked to some of the allegations made here. I don't know if the anonymous contestants in this article are the same ones from the lawsuit. They're anonymous, so, you know, stands to reason we probably will never know. But regardless of that fact, this to me is the most interesting and substantive MrBeast related story we've gotten so far. To me, this is the biggest drama I've heard of with MrBeast that actually is like good. The other day I saw like the Lunchly thing and I was like, who gives a f about Lunchly? Okay, this is something bad that he actually, if true, is responsible for. And I'd like to talk about it. So essentially what this article covers is a lot of claims about the MrBeast TV show and what happened there. And there's a lot of stuff these contestants said. During an intake process this year, several contestants told the New York Times they've been asked whether they'd be willing to be buried alive or travel to outer space. One contestant recalled being asked if she would be able to swim to shore if thrown overboard from a boat. I understand that such activities may cause me death, illness, or seriously bodily injury, including, but not limited to, exhaustion, dehydration, overexertion, burns, and heat stroke, read a line in a contract reviewed by the Times that applicants were required to sign. Such language is common in reality television contracts. I don't know if this is super legal to have a contract with like that. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say. But it does seem to be, from what New York Times is saying, they're saying it's like a standard boilerplate waiver for this kind of thing. But they go on to write what they didn't expect were the more mundane yet potentially dangerous inconveniences that they said had befallen them during the competition. And most of the stuff that happened here, supposedly, allegedly, not only for legal reasons, but also because we just don't know because we weren't there, relates to things like lack of food, people's medications not being passed out on time, people's clothing not being passed out on time in terms of like underwear, women not being given clean underwear when they're menstruating, which is obviously important, women not being given feminine hygiene products, a lot of stuff along those lines. One specific story was about a guy who is a diabetic and needs insulin, and he hadn't gotten it on time, according to him, according to this anonymous person. And a lot of these claims were covered in this New York Times article, which ultimately is the pretext for the lawsuit that's now happening. The games begin. Mr. Donaldson and the executives at MGM Studios had ambitions for BeastGames, typical of MrBeast's penchant for superlatives. In a news release this year, the studio said the show's $5 million prize would be the biggest prize in streaming and television history. And initially, the way he pitched this was there was going to be 1,000 contestants, right? There were going to be 1,000 people involved in this. But ultimately, it ended up being 2,000 people. And that is literally double the amount of money, which also dilutes the amount of people. It also dilutes the chances that you'll win this prize, right? Which is a big deal. So people who signed up, seemingly they were told there would be 1,000, then there was actually 2,000, which halves their chances at the $5 million prize, which is a big deal. But that's not the only problem that people had with this. In fact, a lot of it goes much, much deeper, and the situation gets much serious the more you read into it. For example, several contestants said they had not been warned about how little they would be given to eat and how infrequently. They described going on long stretches without being fed by the production. One said she had gone over 20 hours, both during the games and while they were in Las Vegas before and after filming. One meal described by several contestants included a tiny portion of cold oatmeal, one hard-boiled egg, and a few pieces of raw vegetables. They said that the meals were small and sporadic. Some of them had been fed twice a day, which obviously is not enough. A spokesperson for MrBeast claimed they had been offered 3 meals a day, but it seems that most people, or not most people, but at least some people weren't given 3 meals as a result of sort of poor planning and stuff like that. On top of that, obviously not everyone can eat any food they want, right? Some people can't eat everything, right? If you have a peanut allergy, you can't eat peanut butter. if you have a crack allergy, you can't have crack, okay, obviously. But according to some people, these dietary restrictions were not really followed through on. According to several contestants, they had been served food they were allergic to, and alternatives were not provided. One quote says, "We were treated horribly. They took on a challenge of 2,000 competitors. They should have known they needed an enormous crew to handle this correctly." Now, there are some other funny moments from this article. Like, for example, they claim that MrBeast came out on like this weird shrine, and he was on a platform with like $5 million in cash below him, and they were told to cheer for him. This quote, which is pretty funny, reads, "We're all just looking up at the sky, screaming at him like he's God. Guards dressed entirely in black, complete with face coverings, flank the field," which is also, it sounds like Squid Game, right? It sounds unironically like Squid Game, which is very, very funny. I don't know. I like the idea of MrBeast like coming out. Oh, I'm wearing the Feastable shirt too. Perfect. I like the idea of him like coming out from like this like floor platform. He's got his hands out like he's Jesus. "I'm MrBeast. Welcome to BeastGames." And then you've got, it's like a Simpsons bit where you've got people with signs that say cheer, and the whole crowd's like, "Yeah, Mr. Beast," you know? It is a pretty funny little piece of lore there, if that's true. But that's not really a serious thing. It's just kind of like an aesthetic thing that may be weird, may not be. I don't really care, right? It's kind of whatever. It's like the cornucopia, but gayer. Shout out Katniss Everdeen. She would have made it through BeastGames. But there were some other serious problems that befell some of these contestants, allegedly, from these anonymous people. For example, during the opening speeches, one contestant recalled Mr. Donaldson encouraged the contestants to speak up and ask for help from staff if they needed it. A psychologist also introduced himself to the competitors, explaining that health and safety were priorities. But several contestants said that when they had sought out production staff members for assistance with medical care, food, and hygiene issues, the staff members were often not helpful and appeared disorganized. Some of them yelled and cursed at contestants, one contestant said. And another thing that supposedly happened was, so when you go to this basically MrBeast competition, they collect your medications from you so you don't have to carry it at all times through the competition. But the promise was that these medications would be distributed as needed, right? So let's say you have ADHD, you need your Adderall medication. Obviously, that's the one I'm going to pick. Let's say that is the case. That's going to be distributed to you, supposedly at the time you need it. Let's say you have chronic depression. You're going to have your Prozac distributed to you at the time you need it. Let's say you have diabetes. You're going to need insulin. That's going to be given to you, right? Stuff like this. But according to several contestants, per this New York Times article, said they had not received their meds on time, including one who needed insulin, which is obviously very dangerous. Some people with, conditions like this, they need their stuff right away, or they could face serious health issues, right? Fent isn't super drug. Adderall, however, Adderall is like, it's like, what's that movie? Limitless. It's like Bradley Cooper with Limitless. Okay. One woman said that when she and a group of contestants who were menstruating during the event had asked the production staff about getting their underwear more quickly, she had been told it was not a medical emergency, and she recalled that a nearby member of the staff had laughed at the woman's pleading. So by all accounts, this just seems like a disastrous way that this was run, right? But some other claims ended up coming out that were kind of leaking slowly over time in the lead up to this lawsuit. For example, this guy, Armani Izzati. Who is this guy? Rosanna Pansino claims MrBeast allowed a criminal charged with kidnapping and battery to compete in MrBeast games. So here we have the guy, I guess. Here we have MrBeast. Rosanna Pansino has claimed Jake Paul's controversial friend Armani Izzati was allegedly allowed to take part in MrBeast games. According to a report by Business Insider from 2020, Armani was a friend of Jake Paul's when the FBI raided their homes that year. I forgot, Jake Paul had his house raided? Jake Paul FBI raid. What was that for? Whatever the case, essentially, part of the allegation is that Armani Izzati was present for these games and that he is also a criminal. He has been charged and he was convicted of pimping in 2014. He pled guilty. And this guy, according to Rosanna Pansino, was present for the Beast Games Challenge, which obviously raises the question of why. And in all of these different allegations being made, there was a lot of chatter in the lead up to this lawsuit being announced. Now, I do have a link to the lawsuit here. I can't bring up every part of it, but there are parts of it I can bring up. And I did a little thread on Twitter where I summarized parts of it, which I assume is going to be a bunch of commentary videos from people who don't actually read the lawsuit. But I did read the entire thing, which will be going up on the channel soon. But it was pretty interesting. Here I wrote, just read the whole lawsuit, and most of the claims made are consistent with what the New York Times already reported, although a lot of the info is redacted to prevent the identities of the claimants. Obviously, we don't know 100% if this stuff is true, but it's not looking good. A decent amount of the case rests on the claimant's ability to prove they were functioning as employees and therefore should be treated with the same benefits employees are, like being given adequate meal breaks, rest time, access to medications, and medical care. Now, the reason I bring this up is because there is a specific claim about the reason he did that here, okay? And here's the lawsuit where they write, unfortunately, the supposedly magnanimous Mr. Beast did not want to use the alleged unconstrained resources to provide fair wages or even bare minimum legal working conditions to the contestants whose labor comprised the core commercial value of BeastGames. Instead, defendants employed superior bargaining power to coerce the contestants to sign unconscionable contracts with illegal terms and illusory obligations, and also knowingly mischaracterized the contestants to avoid defendants' employment obligations under California law. And basically the claim here is that Mr. Beast didn't want to classify them as contestants, he didn't want to classify the contestants as official employees, so he wouldn't have to provide employee benefits, and also so that he would be able to get a big tax credit. And they claim here that this was done to get a tax credit of $2,252,523. And a lot of this case and its success, potential success, is going to rest on if these people are basically able to prove if they should be treated as de facto employees. Because if they can prove that, right, if they can prove that they should have been treated as employees with like worker rights, then they can prove a lot of things. They can prove that they should have been paid minimum wage, that they should have been paid on time, which two of the contestants, I believe, claim that they weren't paid on time. They can prove that they shouldn't have been subjected to conditions where they could have been sexually harassed. There is an actual incident of, the word they use is violence here in this lawsuit. A lot of the actual incident is censored. Here, this part reads, additionally, defendants knew or should have known, because its own employment handbook, as detailed above, laid the groundwork for this collective sexual harassment and sexual harassment against female employees. This whole section is basically censored, but through reading through it, you can get the idea that essentially the claim is being made that there was some kind of sexual harassment or violence going on. Here they write, at all relevant times on information and belief, defendants management up to and including senior management and ownership had actual and or constructive notice that its production staff was aware of, but failed to remedy the violence and sexual harassment detailed herein. Now, they censored a lot of what the specific allegations are. The reasoning why being that they are trying to maintain the anonymity of the alleged victims. So essentially, we don't know what the specific incident was here that's being talked about. They do take some quotes from the employee handbook that was leaked that I ended up reading on my channel. But yeah, there is some kind of incident here that we don't really have access to the details of in an effort to protect the identities of the alleged victims, essentially. As I write here, there's also claims of sexual harassment, even violence, although the specific incidents have the information redacted to protect the alleged victims' identities. Another important part is the allegation that MrBeast's company offered to cover therapy to contestants after the fact, which, if true, would seemingly acknowledge some level of general emotional distress during the production, if true. And here I provide a screenshot of the lawsuit, and it says, the BeastGames production was so void of standards of reasonable care that MrBeast allegedly offered to cover the contestants' therapy. And once again, that's going to need to be proven in court, obviously. And as I said here, it's important to note that MrBeast's company is not the only defendant. Amazon's production company is also named, as well as another LLC, which is, it's listed here. It's Off One's Base LLC, which apparently helped with the production of this show. Offered better help, probably. Who knows, bro? Who knows? I imagine the negative press is going to have a big effect on production as we get closer to the release of BeastGames on Amazon Prime Video. And it definitely is, A lot of people have been asking me, like, will the MrBeast controversy ever actually affect him? If you want to see anything that probably has a high possibility of affecting him, it's this. Because this kind of stuff, this lawsuit, if it's successful, firstly, it could really throw a wrench in his plans to get this TV show made with Amazon Prime Video. And secondly, if the lawsuit goes through, if he loses or if he has to pay out a big settlement with Amazon collectively to these supposed victims, if that does have to happen, then I think it would probably destroy the chances of any future TV deals. So, yeah. It's unknown how this is going to go. I am going to be reading the entire lawsuit in a video. I already recorded it this morning, so it'll be coming out on the Tom Dark channel within a couple of days. But yeah, for now, we don't know. I think MrBeast will be fine regardless. I mean, the thing is, like, will he be fine as in, like, will he die? Probably not. Will he go to jail? No. But the thing he cares about most is his YouTube channel, his YouTube success, and his brand. And his brand has taken a big hit because of a lot of these allegations, right? I feel like you need mainstream media coverage to damage the MrBeast brand. Yes, but it's not because of the audience. It's because mainstream media is much more respected than independent media on YouTube by people like shareholders who have control over the money here, right? So, that's basically the situation here. Yeah. It's hard to say how this is going to go. If you had to get a normie job, do you think you'd like being a lawyer? I mean, the idea of it is cool, but the idea of law school is not cool. Law school is expensive. Maybe if I had, like, finished all 4 years of school and then gone to law school, maybe that would have been cool, but I'm kind of in pretty deep now, I would probably have to start over with all of my shit. Yeah. Mr. Beast is like Tinkerbell, no attention, he dies. I mean, that's with any YouTuber, that's the whole point, right? To get attention. But if you think, it is interesting to think about how like before the Chris Tyson thing, I feel like Mr. Beast was untouchable. No criticism was valid. They would all just roll off of him. And now it's a bigger deal, you know? The audience uses independent media a lot, so it'll be known to shareholders soon. I mean, the audience does, but call me crazy, but I don't think a few commentary videos, even if they have 5 million views, has that big of an effect. What has an effect is if those videos get views and then they get reported on by CNN and MSNBC and New York Times, Rolling Stone. And then what Rolling Stone does that's different is Rolling Stone reaches out to Mr. Beast sponsors, and they reach out to Amazon, and they reach to all these companies, right? And then Amazon, you know, their execs have an email in their inbox, or they have a voicemail saying, I would like to get a comment on the Mr. Beast situation. So that's why it has a bigger effect, you know? He had a perfect image, and the philanthropist look was great for him. Yeah, and that's kind of not super effective anymore, at least at some level. Him secretly endorsing Trump, imagine that. He would never do that. He would never, I mean, you say secretly. Secretly, who knows? But he would never publicly endorse Donald Trump. That would be way too big of a controversy, I would say. I wonder what he does think about the election. I wonder if he has any political takes. Well, anyway, that's the situation with the Mr. Beast thing. As I said, there will be another video coming out about it, but, you know, there was a lot of interesting stuff going on in there. I'm curious to see where it goes. This to me, like I said, is like the biggest Mr. Beast controversy that it feels like it's like a real thing. You know, the Lunchly thing is like, who gives a who cares? Who cares at all? I did see Oompaville tweeted, is the Lunchly shit out now? Can I actually buy it? Can I buy these? Are they at Walmart right now? Lunchly. I assume they sell them at Walmart now. Source a Walmart website for Lunchly. It looks like they're not there yet. How does he have it early? I'm going to message him and ask. I don't know what to say, so I go into my PS5 based. Well, is proof positive not to homeschool your kids? I think it's proof positive that you should. Tom Irell, we go to Lunchly and get Mr. Beast Lunchly. We go to Walmart, get Mr. Beast Lunchly. I would do it. Probably not my local Walmart, though. I need to message him and ask where the fuck he got this. I want to try this thing out. Ever thought of doing true crime vids? I already have done a few true crime vids. Like the Randy Stair one's basically a true crime vid. I don't know if I would do it like exclusively, but yeah, true crime's interesting. I like making videos about it. It's a very interesting area of the internet. You know what I'm saying? Beast launching a business with Logan with everything going on isn't something I had on my 2024 bingo card. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, the thing is, like, you can say, oh, Logan's controversial, but Logan is still technically more popular than he is controversial, you know? He is. So, like, for Mr. Beast to turn that down would be a disservice to his business. Now, morally, you can make a judgment of it, obviously, but realistically, like, financially speaking, it makes sense, you know? It does. Maybe it won't in the long term. We'll see how that goes, but for the short term, at least, if you're making a calculated Machiavellian business decision, it makes sense. Exploiting children is sad. I want to be honest. I don't think that Lunchly is exploiting children. I don't think it matters. It's a Lunchable. Who cares?